Hey, what is up guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time, welcome to the channel. If this is you've come back again, thank you so much for clicking on and coming back again. Today, you've obviously seen by the title that we'll be talking about restoration. In fact, the journey of restoration, that's the title. The journey of restoration, because I was originally going to talk about restoration, and we're going to get to some encouraging things at the end of the video about restoration. And I was journeying through this in my mind, like, yeah, that sounds great, and this is going to be great, and this is going to be great. And then sometime last week, I just really felt a bit low all of a sudden. And I just started thinking about how I can't talk about restoration, because restoration is an enthusiastic topic to be talking about. It's lively. Restoration is real life. It's coming into a dead thing, a dead situation, a dead relationship. It's coming into a dead house, a destroyed house, and bringing back what once was. And I couldn't bring that when I was feeling the way I was feeling. And I started thinking about it more, about how restoration is this great thing, but at the moment, like, I'm just feeling so not enthusiastic. And then I started journeying in that emotion and feeling that emotion, like, what does this emotion actually mean? If I'm waiting for restoration in my life, could I feel this way, or do I need to be enthusiastic and happy all the time? And then I messaged my friends actually, and I said to them, I said, restoration is this incredible event, and it's like so exciting, but nobody talks about the pain before restoration. They messaged me back like, are you hurting? And I was like, well, but I just wanted to think about that actually. This idea that restoration we look at as this one-off event, that wow, the house has been restored, or the relationship was restored, the marriage was restored, but actually I think restoration might be a journey. If you watched last week's video, you saw that we talked about suffering, we talked about pain and prosperity, and how they both actually go together, that in the painful seasons we can learn. And it's kind of similar, we're mirroring something of that this week, because we're talking about how restoration, which is so great, only follows brokenness. It only follows painfulness. It only follows difficulty. You don't go into a house to restore a house if it's in peak condition. You restore a house if it's broken. And so I wanted to encourage us today and talk about the fact that pain before restoration might be a good thing, and it might be okay, and we shouldn't hide away from feeling pain or feeling this heartache. We shouldn't hide away from this brokenness that happens before restoration. There's a pastor in America called Stephen Chandler. He's an incredible pastor, but he says this, he says, if you don't know what you've lost, you won't know what God is able to restore. If you don't know what you've lost, you don't know what God's able to restore. That sense of, if you don't feel the pain of the brokenness, if you don't understand how things are different now, you will never understand how good God is at restoring things, and what the restoration actually looks like in all of its strength. You see, that's because restoration is a process that doesn't just start at the event where everything's perfect. Restoration happens when it gets broke, when whatever in your life you're asking God to restore gets broken. This journey starts at the very beginning. Jeremiah, if you've never heard of Jeremiah, he's a prophet, which basically means that God speaks to Jeremiah to speak to people. God speaks to Jeremiah to go and tell the Israelites about some stuff. Now these people, this people group, Israelites, they've not been honouring God, they've not been following God, and they're living in this sort of promised land, it's called, of what God has got for them. But they've not been looking at God, not been recognizing God, living in their sin, living in their disobedience, living in the ways that they want to live. And God says, I need you guys to look back at me. I need you to understand what you're doing is wrong. I need you to understand the way you're living isn't right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you into exile. I'm going to send you into a foreign land. So God uses this guy Jeremiah to tell the people, hey, by the way, you're about to go into this exile. You're about to go into a real difficult thing. You're about to lose your freedom. You're about to live in a foreign land. You're about to live as slaves under people. And the land that you now know will be destroyed. It's going to be cut off. And so we see this Jeremiah in the book of Jeremiah. We see Jeremiah's words, God's words through Jeremiah to these people. Hey, by the way, God's going to send you for about 70 years into this land. But what's interesting about this is in Jeremiah 30, we find in Jeremiah 30 that Jeremiah is telling the people, they're not in exile yet. He's still telling the people, hey, you're going to go into this real difficult time in your life, and you haven't reached it yet. But in Jeremiah 30, God talks about how he's going to restore Israel. He's going to restore these people, this people group. God starts telling them, hey, even though you haven't even felt the pain yet, the restoration journey has indeed started. We find, it says this in Jeremiah 30, verse 17, for I will restore health to you and heal you and your wounds. God says at the very, in this time where he's saying, I'm sending you off, I am still going to restore. I am restoring you to what is going to happen. It's difficult and it's painful, but we see that God restores very early on and restores in the pain. Isaiah says, I have seen their ways and I will heal them. I will guide them and restore comfort to Israel mourners. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the mourning and the pain that you're feeling is a part of your restoration journey. That it's not actually bad and we shouldn't hide away from it. That we shouldn't think, oh no, I can't talk about that. But actually what God does when you're broken is he restores. It's a kind of a good thing, because when you're broken and hurting, when you feel like you've lost everything, that's when there's space for God to move and fix some things in your life. That's when there's space for God to just turn up and change the atmosphere. That's when there's space for God to move. Because in our brokenness, we allow God to move. And that's why it says it. That's why I mentioned Isaiah 57:18, because it even speaks of the mourners. God doesn't say here, I'm going to restore comfort to those who are joyous and happy. He doesn't say that. He says, I'm going to restore comfort to those who are in pain. And in this Jeremiah scripture, in this Jeremiah word, what he's saying is, you're about to go through a very difficult period of time. You're about to go through this very difficult moment, and I am going to restore in that. In your difficulties, I am going to restore. Now you might be saying, but restoration is just the bringing back of the old. What's the point of God restoring? But the beauty of when God restores is he restores better than what was once there. And we find this in this incredible moment in John 2, 1 to 12. It's a wedding feast, and this is Jesus' first recorded miracle. And what happens here is they're at a wedding. Jesus is at a wedding with his mother and some of his friends, his disciples, and basically they've run out of wine. They've got no wine left, and there's like just nothing there. And so Jesus steps in and says, get some water for me. I'm going to turn water into wine. Jesus restores into this moment wine, but the wine he restores is greater than once was. It says this, in fact, and when the master of the feast had tasted the wine, this is verse 9, had tasted the water that was made to wine, and did not know where it came from, but the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom, and he said to him, every man at the beginning sets out his good wine, and when the guests have well drunk, then the inferior. But you have kept the good wine until now, because when God moves and restores something, puts back something into your life which has gone missing, which you've run out of, it's always better. Maybe there was a job opportunity that you didn't get. God has got something better for you. Maybe it's a relationship that's broken down and God said, I'm going to restore the relationship that's broken down, but it's going to be different, and this is the beauty of it, because it's going to be better than what it once was. Maybe it's a position that you feel like you've lost. God's moving to give you something greater than what you once had. So take heart in the struggle. Take heart in the pain you're currently facing. Because right now, yes, it's difficult, but the Bible says that the pain helps us to notice when God is going to restore. It's a part of the story. It's there for a reason, and we need to understand that the pain you're going through is there for a reason. Don't hide away from it, but lean into it, because when God then restores, it's going to be even better. There's so many scriptures, and I've really not done justice to God's restorative power. And maybe in future we'll be able to talk even more about it. But I just wanted to leave you with that very simple today. That when restoration needs to happen, it's because we're broken. But even though we're broken, God is doing something in this journey. You're sat at home broken, but God is going to move in this journey in a way that you never thought he would. He's going to restore some things, but take heart. Because although the restoration process might be painful, when he does restore, it's going to be even greater than what you once had. Thank you so much for listening. Be blessed and be a blessing.